Hello, everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire, joining you today on a fairly chilly night. Today, we are here with the Loremasters spell guide, something I think I should probably do just a little bit more often, as well as revisiting the alignment guide. I need to do that, come up with more examples, but we are here to discuss a particular spell, one that has been around for quite a while. Actually, like most of the spells the Lore Master Spell Guide has covered, this one has been around since pretty early on in Dungeons and Dragons, and we'll go over some of those details in just a moment. But the spell in question today is Wish. Wish is one of the most incredible spells that any spellcaster could utilize. You're literally bending and altering the fundamental, well, you're altering nature to suit your whims, is what it boils down to. I mean, it's an incredible spell. But when it first showed up, it first appeared in the first Greyhawk supplement in 1976. It did not appear in the original Dungeons and Dragons. But, you know, this is still fairly early on. And this first appearance of Limited Wish and Wish is incredibly Gygaxian. Gary Gygax himself wrote the guidelines for running this, and he spent most of the spell description giving examples of how to just stick it to the players for daring to use this spell. This is where you get the idea that you really need to be careful in thinking out and wording your wish spell to limit how much a DM could just really screw with you. Second edition, when that came about, that got to be a bit more fair, but could take a severe toll on the caster. You'd age by 5 years for casting it, and more extreme uses incurred a -3 strength penalty and could take 2d4 days of bed rest to recover from. And in third edition ended up having a lot of rules and costs you 5,000 experience points to cast, and you could potentially lose levels throwing this spell around, on top of all of the other things. Fourth edition, as if we didn't have enough reasons to just really, really hate 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons, it took Wish out of the game and made it a plot device solely for DMs. Boo. Boo those people. Boo that edition. Awful. Terrible. That's just, well, I'm sitting here hating on 4th edition, but we should actually move on to what exactly Wish does. Now, for 3rd edition and Pathfinder, it has a casting time of 1 standard action. Its range, well, target, duration, saves, and all of that, you need to read the text on it. Does it have spell resistance? Yes, it does, but that almost, I mean, it can matter, but really, your uses are so wide and varied, you have so many options that it almost doesn't matter. This lets you duplicate any arcane spell of 8th level or lower, as long as it's not a restricted school to you. So if you specialized as a summoner, whatever your restricted school will be based off of that, you can't duplicate that spell with Wish. You can duplicate any spell of 6th level or lower as long as it's not a restricted school, and you can duplicate any arcane spell of 7th level or lower even if it's a restricted school. And then you can duplicate any 6th level or lower spell as long as it's not a restricted school. You can undo the harmful effects of other spells such as Insanity or Gaius, or Quest, and you can create a non-magical item of up to 25,000 gold pieces in value. There's more. You can create a magic item or add to the powers of a magic item. You can grant a creature a +1 inherent bonus to an ability score. 2 to 5 castings of this particular effect in immediate succession can grant up to a +2 to a +5 inherent bonus. This is instant, cannot be dispelled, and cannot exceed the +5, and the bonus cannot stack with other inherent bonuses. You can remove injuries and afflictions, aid 1 creature or caster per level, heal all wounds or diseases, but not both. You cannot restore constitution loss from being raised from the dead. You cannot restore experience loss from casting a spell. You can also revive the dead with this. It takes one casting to restore a dead body and another to restore life to it. So that's 2 castings right there. Transport travelers. You can pull any creature from any plane to any location on any plane. Unwilling creatures do get a will save. You can undo misfortune, which allows you to force a reroll on any roll. Critical hits, saves, failures, skill checks, etc. You have to take the worst result if that's what comes up, though. And you can create greater effects, but it's dangerous to do so. Basically, the DM gets way more latitude and crazier the crazier you get with the wish. So with these here, the DM cannot really do much to mess with you or willfully, deliberately misinterpret what it is you are casting the wish for. Going beyond that, the DM, again, has that range to kind of mess with things. But then, when we come over to 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, it has a casting time of 1 action, range is self, and the duration, it's an instantaneous effect. Range is self, I mean, that's a tiny bit of a misnomer, but let's cover its effects here. You can duplicate any spell of 8th level or lower without needing to meet any requirements and or expensive spell components. You can create a non-magic item worth up to 25,000 gold pieces, no larger than 300 feet in any kind of dimension like that. You can restore up to full hit points for up to 20 creatures and give them the effects of the Greater Restoration spell. You can grant up to 10 creatures you see damage resistance to a type that you choose. You can grant up to 10 creatures you see immunity to a single spell or magical effect for up to 8 hours. For example, this would be such as like Lich's Life Drain. Things like that you can give them immunity to. You can undo a single recent event by forcing a reroll of a roll made within the last round. Reality will reshape and contort to accommodate this new result. Casting this spell causes great strain. Any spells cast afterwards cause 1d10 points of necrotic damage per level of the spell. So if you bust out an 8th level spell, that's 8d10 right there. Pretty dangerous thing for you to do, being a squishy spellcaster. Your strength will drop to 3, and you have to rest for 2d4 days. There's a 33% chance that you can never cast Wish again. So you take out the percentile dice, you roll it, you get that 1 through 33. Well, sorry, buddy, no longer casting the Wish spell. But given the effects that you can achieve with this, it's probably going to be worth taking that risk. If you're breaking out a wish, things are probably pretty dire. This is like end of game epic level content, kind of a boss fight sort of thing that you're throwing yourself into. This is the epic conclusion to the campaign, and so pulling out all the stops is absolutely going to be necessary. So with that in mind, this spell is going to be incredibly useful, but you do have to be careful because this is something you're going to be breaking out at the end. You have to break this out at the end almost, because if you just go into this and go into an encounter like that and just throw the wish out there right off the bat, every spell you cast afterwards carries with it the risk that you're building up damage. You're going to eventually kill yourself if you're trying to break out all of your spells afterwards. Really, the only reason you would throw the wish out there at the start is if you are almost, well, as certain as you can be that you are going to end the encounter with that one casting. And even then, you need to be careful because the description for this spell, even with 5th edition, the crazier you get, the more leeway and latitude the DM has to start messing with your result. So if you start wishing that, well, the classic example is if you start wishing for the big bad to be dead. They're dead, they're gone. Well, then the spell may very well just catapult you forward in time to a point where your opponent is dead. They're long since gone and buried. And, well, good luck getting back. You're effectively out of the fight from that point forward. And If you wish that your opponent had never existed, well, then it may send you back uh, to before your target was born, well before, in fact, where, by the time you die, your opponent is born and now they exist and they're walking the world. You get the idea. You can mess with Wish in very many ways, but one thing I will recommend for DMs out there, if a player has the Wish spell as part of their spell list, give them a bit of play with the spell. Don't automatically cater to every single whim that they have, but the wizard, sorcerer, whoever, when they're casting the spell, they are channeling their own power to make the spell happen. They are altering reality and existence using this spell. So, because it is the player's will driving this particular spell, I would say, as long as they're not getting too crazy with it, they have a little bit more leeway and control over the results. Don't get too Gygaxian on them. Don't go full Gygax and just really screw them for an errant word or two here or there. But if they're getting the wish through another source, say they found an Efreet or any other kind of Jinn, some kind of creature that is able to cast or use the wish spell as a spell-like ability, then you have much more room to mess with it, especially in the case of Jinn. Jinn were known to be incredibly mischievous. Actually, if I recall correctly, the original folklore surrounding them, they were not friendly spirits in any way, shape, or form. And they would twist your wishes in cruel and unimaginable ways just to kind of have some kind of a blowback effect on you or your friends or family. The people around you would suffer as a result of the wish. So, again, in that instance, then yes, impress upon them the need to exercise care when getting wishes from these kinds of sources. Even benevolent sources may uh, interpret the wish in the most favorable way for themselves. So they'll still produce good effects with the wish spell, but they're still going to interpret good by their stricter and harsher definitions. Say they find a solar with the ability to cast wish, use it as a spell-like ability. That solar, being lawful good, has a much more rigid idea of what is good, righteous, and lawful, what fits within the larger order of the universe. So when they use this effect on behalf of the players, they are going to use it in the manner that they deem most fitting, while taking into account what the characters want. They're not going to give them exactly what they want. They are going to give them what they believe is best for the players within the context of those wishes. So, definitely a tricky thing to play with, but that gives you enough rope for you to hang the players with. Possibly yourself too, but your DM, you can wiggle your way around through so many different things, or you should be able to. Learn to. Do it, practice, and all of that. It gets easier. But the point is, Wish is an incredibly powerful spell. Really, there's not a lot of bounds or limits to its power, but the crazier you get, the more you're altering reality, means you're channeling that much more power into the spell, trying to control that much power as it flows and arcs through you, through reality. That gets tricky, or at least you can imagine how that gets incredibly difficult to do, maintain, and control, and eventually there will be some kind of blowback. The players may get most of what they want out of the wish, but there could be some incredibly undesirable effects that end up befalling the caster, the people they wanted to affect with the wish. Any number of things could happen and go wrong. The bigger the bang, the harder it is going to be to control and survive the effects of, especially in such close proximity. But we're going to go ahead and wrap this up there. If you enjoyed the video, go on down, hit the like button, let me know in the comments down below, or if you disagree, is Wish not that great? Have I looked at something wrong? Do you have a different take on the spell? Well, still, hit dislike, go on down to the comments, and let me know. I'm certainly more than happy to engage in the discussion. And if you did enjoy today's video, there's going to be a couple more popping up over this way. One, the almighty algorithm has determined that you will enjoy this video as well. And also, the other one's just something else I've put out recently. You may enjoy that as well. And if this has not been your first step here at the Gamers Den, then why not hit the subscribe button? If you sat through 2 or more videos, something clearly is working for you, and we'd be more than happy to have you join us here at the Gamers Den. But with that said, I have been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.